Wow, that has really initiated a conversation, hasn't it? So is anybody happy to share some insights or questions or anything that has come up through your sharing related to your experience of both maybe the mindful movement and the awareness of breath?
I feel that it just made me want to connect with me and in my heart, actually. I think we were just saying about the giving we give over Christmas and all of that, and it was just coming back to just being in my heart, and it was actually very powerful.
Was it an emotion that you were feeling, or just a sense of heartfulness?
It was more like an emotion, an emotion, and bringing joy back to the heart, or into the heart. Yeah.
I found I'm very light sensitive, and actually I lay there, but it's right under the light, and eventually it started to really get to me, and your words then came: if there's any discomfort, then bring your attention back to your breath, because you're focusing on your breathing. But what I actually did, and what I do if I've got any discomfort, is it's not like taking your attention from one to the other, I actually breathe into it. I sort of engulf it, and if there's like pain or whatever, I tend to engulf that, breathe into it, and I find it does actually bring it down. So, and that really helped me, and then I became a lot more open and really in there. And then at the end with the heart, I just felt it was so nurturing and healing, very loving.
Thank you. Anybody have a different experience or encounter any difficulties? Because that's also welcome. You know, if you find it, for me, I didn't see colours. I didn't feel any love. I just felt like, things are grinding maybe. Because, that could have been as well. That's also okay, Or maybe something in between or something different. Because it's interesting, isn't it? When we notice pain or discomfort, there's like an immediate secondary level of experience, which is the narrative or the story. Why now? I don't like this. How long is it going to go on for? I came here to chill and I'm feeling all this pain, So it's like, well, how do we work with that?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting with the arm rising and that same heaviness. But then that second level of judgment, which is really sort of interesting in the dialogue, like, gosh, am I weak? And have I not gone to the gym enough? and then you think, that's kind of interesting, on having those kind of things.
Yes. And is this something you noticed in your experience tonight, or was it different for you?
Those were the little judgments creeping in about my experience. And it's interesting how quickly, towards the end, not actually, but just before the music bit, where there was the beginnings of, when is this going to end? This bit's going to end, It started to creep in.
And how did you work with that? Did you kind of stay with that narrative, or did you notice bring it back with something different?
I'd like to say that I noticed and let it go, but I don't think I did. I think it just kind of drifted from one thing to another.
Great, thank you for
I know
sharing.
when I started doing the mindful movement, I started to feel very tired. I thought, I'm not going to be able to stand for this long. And then I've got the music after that. I thought, I'm not going to be able to stand for that. But it's funny how the body takes over then from the mind, and you don't feel it so much, do you? It just disappears.
So it's again the narrative, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's this kind of mental fabrications. It just comes in pretty much all the time. So even though we've got the anchor, the breath is an anchor, or the body, the movement is an anchor, but that future past orientation narrative comes in regularly, like like a visitor.
I think and this is a post-reflection, which is when you get in that place of judgment, especially if you get into a thought that this is a real problem.
Yes.
What's kind of quite, I guess, relieving in a way is that just a few seconds later you can forget that, and then you move on to something else. So something that theoretically was a real problem was not really a real problem anymore.
So what you're saying is that there's a moment where you fully kind of believe that thought. There's a kind of certainty or solidity.
Yeah.
And then once you've given it some observation or practice, it loses that certainty and it just becomes almost another thought.
Yeah, and I think on the basis that it probably happens anywhere between 10 and 50 times a day, you start to come back and say, well, really, then most of the time my thinking around problems is probably not true.
Yes.
Which is quite freeing.
And it's interesting though, isn't it? Because when we are going through that experience, it feels very real. That thought, that belief, that pattern feels real because it's, we feel the tension or the constriction. But is it necessarily true?
Yeah, because when we have the thought about the pain, like what I experienced, the fact that we're having that thought about the pain makes it more painful. So it's like that secondary thought, and then eventually it just drifts off. Once you bring your attention back to your body and the movement, then that pain tends to drift away. So it becomes less powerful.
So we kind of see that kind of fluidity of the mind and the attention, and that things might feel very real, but actually when we observe them a little bit or give them a bit of space, they lose that grip. And we have that kind of possibility of insight that, well, it is just another thought that we've held on so tightly, or it is just another emotion that we've held on so tightly in the body. And that's that kind of freedom that we talk about in meditation. And this is kind of also connecting to the theme tonight, which is how do we flow with life? How do we flow rather than resist life or bang the head against the wall? How do we flow with life? And one way to flow with life is to notice that what we believe, what we think, is not necessarily a reflection of the truth. And yet it feels very real in the body. And we base a lot of our decisions on certain beliefs, certain thoughts, certain convictions, certain emotions. And then it solidifies, it cements, so it's no longer fluid, it's no longer flexible. And then we keep banging our head against the wall, internal wall, fighting a certain situation, whatever external situation might be, relationship or financial or work, we just keep fighting it. We're actually, by allowing ourselves to observe our thoughts in relationship to that situation, we find that flow once again. We find that kind of spaciousness. And that's, for me, personally, that's where that freedom of flow is. That's where that freedom lies. But isn't it true that, just because you've meditated once doesn't mean, it's like, I don't know about you, I might have mentioned to you that I'm going on a 10-day silent Vipassana meditation retreat on Friday. But yeah, it takes like daily practice, doesn't it? Because we forget. we just forget. So it doesn't matter, even though we've had the experience once or twice, we fall back into that habit. And this is why coming together like this, even just once a month, is so helpful. Because we reconnect with that space of being the observer. And also the beautiful thing is we're all doing it together, so that space supports itself and each other. So I hope I don't dissolve into dust, because the diet is very, very minimal.
It's just amazing.
3 meals or 2?
We should go. No, 3 meals.
I think I better go there.
It wasn't,
Thai food as well.
it wasn't just vegetarian, it was chicken as well.
Chicken?
Yeah, I was amazed.
Where did you go off to?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
I
I need a
know.
ticket to go
It was
there.
Thai food, you know, Thai.
Yeah,
Green
see?
curry, red curry.
I better look next time properly. I'm not, no. I'm not
I thought that
vegetarian.
was unusual that they had the chicken there. So.
Well, isn't it? I mean, so different places. You can go to Thailand, you can go to Hereford, you can go to Wiltshire. I'm going to Wiltshire. But the most important thing is how do we flow with life? How do we support that flow? Well, actually, 5 minutes once a day is enough. You know, it doesn't have to be 3 days, 7 days, 10 days. Just doing something for yourself every day. You know, one conscious away breath is enough. But obviously, if you can have a regular practice of, 15 minutes or more, 10 minutes or more every day, the better.